Okay, this is the new segment. It's Curt Wyatt and I sitting here chatting, and we're doing I don't know what we're going to call this, Curt. What do you want to call this? Eventually we got to come up with a name, right?
Yeah, it's too cliche to say insurance coffee, but we're drinking coffee, so...
Yeah, it's like insurance coffee talk. It's like those little magazines you see, or the little pieces of paper you see in diners across the country, right? The coffee news, except we're making it about insurance.
And there's no doubt that insurance people drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, before they go into the hard stuff.
Tons of it.
Yeah.
Just buckets of it.
Yeah.
I think if there was ever a coffee shortage, there would be at least a 50% reduction in productivity in the insurance industry.
Absolutely. So, it's a staple. So what was news last week? Okay. I think the first one is the coronavirus, and that we now got notifications about how insurance companies are going to address this when it comes to travel insurance policies. Like it's excluded now. So typical insurance company behavior, is that fair to say?
I would guess. Fire is on your doorstep. Whether it makes the insurance industry look great or not is, I guess hard to say for sure. I'm sure consumers out there are kind of questioning that one. At the same time, do you book a trip to Italy right now and expect an insurance company to pick up the slack if things go worse currently in that environment? You don't want it to, but at the same time, it's sort of all uncharted territory at this point.
The thing about that kind of blows my mind is I'm about to go on a trip. And what's going to happen is we bought this thing, flights, hotel, and tickets to a Lakers game. And now we might not be able to go to the game. We might not be able to go on our flight, depending on what the thing is. And it's all on my credit card. And I don't know what's going to happen there. That's really weird. So I might have to call my credit card company and figure out what's going on. And we all know how that chain of events can go. It'll be really interesting to see what they cover.
It is going to be interesting. And, obviously travel insurance today is the topic because all we're hearing about is cruise ships and airlines, like you just said, sporting events. But, where's the next step when businesses are affected, like we're hearing overseas, and, you have business interruption claims. You potentially have the need to have employees work from home. Our brokers, just within our industry, talking about, okay, how are we going to have our staff working from home over a period of, 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Are those steps being taken?
Oh, absolutely. And as you know, I'm on the regulatory board here in Manitoba, and the act in Manitoba says if you're a certain class of license, like a level 1, you have to be supervised working. Oh, great. I can't wait for this to unfold. I mean, what are we going to do if this comes to this? It's going to be weird, and it's going to be play it by ear. Let's move on to something else. Another news, and this is, more for our friends in Canada here. Trufla, with our friend Sharif Jamil, who we both know. He's a 2-time podcast guest, and he also likes to talk around a pool in Vegas. He and his company, Trufla, have bought Client Desk. And that's kind of an interesting thing in the digital marketing scenario, connectivity scenario for brokers. What do you think he's trying to do with this? I'm not sure yet.
We're starting to enter, I would say we're starting to enter stage 2 of some of this insurance digital rollout opportunities that have been, now percolating for at least 2 to 5 years, where you've got some maturity. Trufla, the brand is maybe only a couple years old for Sharif, but Sharp Insurance, we all know, has been pushing heavy on the digital space. It's, I think, just going to be now the new evolution, where we're seeing brokers or digital providers buy digital providers in the insurance space.
Yeah, and it's just expanding that reach, right? I mean, it'd be interesting to understand the underlying sort of metrics of how they arrived at this in terms of why it made sense for Client Desk to sell and what they see in the partnership and how they're going to divide everything up. It's one of those wait and see things. We're going to see more of this in the industry of, the guys who want to take this step into the digital foray and be that bleeding edge person. They're going to have to keep moving forward. It doesn't stop and pause. And maybe there's a reason for them to pause. I don't know, but it seems that the acceleration of change is moving faster.
For sure. It is a capital intense market from development costs to client acquisition on the digital side, as far as guys like Sharif trying to build client brokers who are within their model. And this is a perfect move. It gets you more eyeballs on your digital platform.
And then the other thing I thought was interesting is we go from acquisition and technology to the fact that there's still a ton of mergers and acquisitions in the broker channels and in that distribution space. And friend of ours, one of my earliest guests on the podcast, Mike Barris, who you know very well. Number one. That's right.
Yeah.
He put out a report that was picked up in Canadian Underwriter talking about some of the things that people are looking for when looking for brokerages to buy and what brokerage owners should be thinking about when you're thinking about selling. What did you think about that? Do you think it plays into what we just sort of see with technology and talking about truthful growing?
I'm not 100% convinced yet, Pete, that if I'm a active buyer, I'm going to turn down a deal because that guy doesn't have the best website, blah, 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 kind of digital this, digital that. I think, the Hubs of the world, Arthur J. Gallagher's, that they're out buying. If you've got a good client book with great loss ratio, I think you're likely still going to have a really good offer.
Yeah. I mean, if you run a good shop, if you've been innovative and your customer relationships are bang on, you're not going to have a problem selling it because people want volume, right? Volume speaks. And those big guys like the Hubs, the Arthur J. Gallagher's, I mean, and even the broker links and, the Western financial groups, companies we know well, they'll convert that stuff to the digital age on their own, will they not? Because they have the resources.
Bingo, right? And I know from our days of buying brokers, sometimes buying a broker who saw themselves as ahead in technology actually were harder to merge into your systems, like you just said, Pete, and versus, and this is well ahead of where brokers are, well behind where brokers are today, is, if you bought a brokerage that had no technology, in some ways it was easier because you could just put them right into your platform and they didn't even know what they didn't have because they didn't really have much in technology. So it's it's an interesting dive. I mean, media is what it is. I think Mike wants to impress upon brokers that you shouldn't be sitting still. If you are thinking of selling, don't sit back and hope that hope that someone's going to buy you, even if you haven't spent any money on technology. I think Mike's message is correct, that whether you're for sale today or in 2 years from now, you need to keep chasing what clients want. And that's some form of digital interface with your broker.
Yeah, I think that's bang on. And we're going to see that more and more. And it'll be really interesting to see when you do establish a really amazing digital interface, when that becomes a consistent part of every brokerage's business, what that does to mergers and acquisitions. So that's kind of it, right?
Agreed. I mean, agreed. Yeah, I think it's where brokers ultimately need to get to be able to talk to the next generation. So if you are buying, if you're the buyer, you know that you can't take what you've bought and just leave it status quo. It's like any car that you've just bought. It's like you're going to need new tires and a battery. That's this part of the game of buying.
Yeah, there we go. Well, hey, that's the coffee talk for last week. And thanks for listening. And it's kind of fun. We'll see how this evolves. It's something fun to do and just kind of recap things without going hugely long form. And we look forward to hearing the feedback on it. So thanks, Curt.
You bet. Right on. We're putting the FUN back in insurance podcasting. So, our competition now has to step it up.
Yeah, exactly. Thinking of you, Lamparelli.